Greetings and welcome to another Warhammer 40,000 Kill Team video, where today I'm going over the changes to ITC and how that affects Kill Team. But before we get into things, please remember to like and subscribe as well as comment. Let me know what you thought of today's video, if you found it useful and helpful. And remember, I've got a Discord you can check out for free in the episode description below, an affiliate link at Element Games, and an affiliate link and discount code at Crossfire Games, as well as a Patreon if you want to give me some more support. But yeah, I'm back from America. I've rested a bit. I'm no longer an egg. But now I'm going over the changes to ITC which were announced last year. So while they don't really affect casual players too much, I'll kind of go over the changes that affect competitive players as well as those who want to run events, because Games Workshop have updated how points are earned when the season resets, as well as how golden tickets are earned, at least via ITC. Here's the article where it's all explained, covered on Warhammer Community, and I just wanted to break it down for people, as a lot of people were confused, and they have made some changes since original reading when publication was made, because I noticed a lot of changes when I came back and read through it again. So I'm just going to go through it all now and cover the big changes. So Games Workshop says they've been talking to BCP, tournament organizers, players, oddly focus groups, and have ratified some changes for the independent tournament circuit and the season. So the main thing is it will always be free, so you'll never have to pay to partake in this system. And if you've never played in a tournament, basically most tournaments run on an app called Best Coast Pairings, and once the tournament has finished, a TO can choose to upload that information to ITC, and then ITC can basically extrapolate where a player finishes and gives them tournament points, and then at the end of the year gives them awards based on where they finished. So this is always free, you never have to pay to enter it. So one of the big changes was the season date changes. So normally the season resets at the end of January when LVO happens, the Las Vegas Open, which is the biggest Warhammer event in the world. This time they've changed it to reset at the end of the World Championships of Warhammer, which is held every November and currently is in Atlanta. So this is something me and a lot of other players were expecting for years, and we were kind of expecting it to be announced at the 2024 World Championships, but it looks like they had some kind of delay and have announced it now. So that's the big change. Instead of tournaments and the season resetting at the end of January, they now reset at the end of November. Now, while this does make sense as Games Workshop effectively controls ITC, it is a shame, and they do mention that now the Las Vegas Open has kind of lost some of its importance, because the Las Vegas Open is run by Frontline Gaming, and Frontline Gaming originally started ITC, so that's why LVO was the start and end of the season, because that was their main event. Now, it acknowledges that LVO is still extremely important, and it probably will be, but I'm kind of worried for LVO. Even though it's been growing year on year, mainly with 40k, one of the big draws was the fact that it was when the season reset, because it was the last time to get points, and it was the biggest place you could get points. And generally, if you play at LVO usually now decides who finishes in the top 3, or even who wins ITC for the year. So it's always been quite important. But now that it resets with the World Championships of Warhammer, it does make LVO less important. And I'm not sure if LVO will stay in January, because when I was completing the Las Vegas Open feedback forms, they were asking about dates which, people would prefer to move. And if they were going to move the Las Vegas Open, I could see them moving it to earlier in the year, in terms of, well, later in the year actually, but earlier from where January was. And it wouldn't surprise me if they maybe moved the Las Vegas Open to December, so it's actually the first event after the World Championships of Warhammer, or probably even the end of October, because then it would be the last major independent event before the World Championships of Warhammer. So either way, it's not as great for LVO. It'll still get a lot of players, but that's the big change. That's when seasons reset. Now, something else they announced was how country rankings and golden tickets are affected. So they hinted at this at the Las Vegas Open award ceremony for the end of ITC, but they formally announced it now. So what the main changes are, they're putting more of a focus on where people finish in their country instead of just the overall global rankings. So now for players who finish the top of their region, they will get given a golden ticket to the World Championships of Warhammer automatically, and if they already had one, it would go down to the next person in line who doesn't have a golden ticket, which is nice. And they will also do this every 6 months. months, so the middle of the season, and the middle of the season will be the 1st of June. So basically every 6 months, everyone who's placed #1 in their country who doesn't have a golden ticket will get given a golden ticket to come to the World Championships of Warhammer. Now this is actually really, really good. The main issue with the World Championships of Warhammer is currently, unless they make big changes, I wouldn't really recommend going unless you have a paid for ticket, or if you've never been before. If you've never been before, go once, like at least once, and it's fun. But the issue is all these tickets aren't funded, so you will still have to pay for your own flights and hotels, which can be quite pricey. The offset is you get free entry to the tournament, and at least it is a nice way to get these tickets now more easily, because if you look at the ranking system, especially when you open up Europe, they're now basically counting every single country. I think the UK has now been broken down into 4 places, so England, Wales, Scotland and Ireland. So every 6 months, the 4 players in the top position in those regions will get tickets, as well as everyone in Europe. Oddly, America is still counted as one giant place, which is kind of funny, but offsets that they generally have the most golden tickets. So it's a really nice way to get more European players and non-American players to the event, although the main issue is cost, right? But it does kind of help now that they're not running Warhammer Fest, so there's more avenues for European players and obviously non-American players, which is good. The other change is how they're giving points. So points for tournaments that are less than 256 players are going to get a boost, specifically players between 20 and 64. So if your event regularly holds 20 to 64 players, that's where you're going to get the most points boosts for your ITC rankings. Now this doesn't mean if you go to a 64 player event, you're going to get more points than a 128 player or 256 player event. It just means you're now not as far behind as if you weren't able to go to those big events. Because, for example, with LVO for Kill Team, being regularly able to get nearly 200 players very much heavily swings the results, making it a very weighty tournament score to the point where it offsets people who have been regularly playing in like 48 player tournaments. So this is a nice way to catch up, as it is the most common size of event, which is great. This is not just for Kill Team, it's for all game systems, and as well as players from, well, events with 128 to 256 players will also get a slight boost. So this is kind of nice, but it's trying to incentivize the most common range of tournaments, which is generally 20 to 64 players. So this is really nice. The only thing that kind of worries me is for these big events, them getting lesser points kind of may hurt them, but Games Workshop wants to promote smaller growing scenes to help them develop to become more stable regular tournaments, which is nice. Although with big events, it's difficult. While they are established, I don't think they really make money. So them kind of making less points, especially once we see how it plays out. If the gap between like a 256 player event to a 64 player event isn't that much in terms of rankings, you could see less players go to those large events. But I don't think it will change too much. It'll just be a nice small boost. But those are the big changes when it comes to how golden tickets are given and how points are given from each tournament. Because if you weren't aware, basically from what we've deciphered, ITC gives you the most points depending on how many players you have, and how many undefeated players you have at the end of the event, as well as how many rounds. So basically, to get the most points from your tournament, if you're a player trying to get ITC points, you need a tournament that has only one undefeated player, has, you know, at least 6 rounds and a good chunk of players, because the point breakdown basically goes from 20 to 64, then 128, and then more than 256 gives you the maximum boost for player count. Then if you've got more rounds, ideally 6 or more, and then if you've got one undefeated winner, you get more points. Because one thing is, if your event has more than one undefeated winner, it actually gives less points. But with the boost for 20 to 64 players, as well as 128 to 256, you now get more points for that event, which is nice. Now they cover more about tournament organizers. So Games Workshop actually does have the approved tournament organizer program, which I was aware of, but I didn't know how to get into as a TO myself. Now, I do know Games Workshop has regular meetings with these TOs, but they go over how you can actually get involved, as well as the support they're giving. So they give multiple links for you to apply, which I actually have just applied for before recording this video. So it's useful, and the fact they are open about making the barriers for entry low and trying to primarily get people helping into the TO system to try and provide support for players running those 20 to 64 player events, which is really, really good. They're also adding more scoring formats and templates. So when you're trying to like set up your event, you've got more guides to select and go off of. Because the biggest thing I found when I was when I am a TO is that it's kind of, you just have all these options and you kind of speak to other TOs to find out players to find out what's the best. But the fact they'll have fixed templates that you can just pre-select from will speed up the process a lot and hopefully minimize errors, because when you're trying to select pairings as well as placement options, it does become a bit confusing. So this is very nice to see. But Games Workshop are clear to stress these are just like templates for you to use, not that you have to use. So you're still encouraged, to go your own way, but these are just to help if you're a new TO and you're unsure what to do. Then the other thing they've talked about is linking your My Warhammer account to your ITC, Best Coast Pairings account. So I believe from this, it's mainly for TOs, but I probably would do it as a player just in case. But currently they haven't explained how it will affect players. They go over how it mainly affects tournament organizers. So if you have linked your account, you get a boost to how many ITC points your tournament is worth. And then you get an additional boost if you're also an approved TO. So if you're in the approved TO system, you get another boost. And then you get your third boost if you're a World Championship qualifying event. So if you're a golden ticket event, you get a third boost. So to go over those boosts quickly, if you link your My Warhammer account and you're a TO, your event gets boosted in size for points. Then if you're also on the approved TO program, you get boosted again. And then if you have a golden ticket for your event, you get a third boost. And this is cumulative with the boosts for being, a 20 to 64 player event, as well as a 128 to 256 player event. So this is a nice way to get TOs to join up, but we need to see what happens for players. And Games Workshop do go to stress again, this is not going to affect the larger tournaments. It's mainly to support those smaller tournaments, as established tournaments such as LVO and probably like Nova already have enough support and, players to satisfyingly give them enough points, which, is interesting. I mean, it's definitely true for 40k as well as some Age of Sigmar events, but it's nice they've been clear about that. I just would have wished they would have talked about what players get for linking their My Warhammer account instead of just TOs. And then at the end, they stress that these aren't final. They're still talking to players, scenes, tournament organizers, engaging what is best and how to improve off of this. Like, I could see them maybe breaking down like East and West Coast and Mid Coast for America for getting golden tickets, as well as other regions due to their size. But we'll see, and they're still open to changes and that there are more coming. So if stuff are negative, they will probably walk back on it. But at the moment, it seems all right as well. So overall, for the ITC changes to Kill Team, to summarize, Games Workshop has now formally changed when seasons start. Before, they would restart at the end of January to mid-January, basically resetting and ending when LVO, the Las Vegas Open, started. Now the ITC season resets at the World Championships of Warhammer in November. So the season will end, and then at the World Championships of Warhammer, and then restart the week after, which is a change. The main issue which has led to that is ITC points have been backdated back to 2024, which, to be fair, Games Workshop kind of had to do because they left the announcement so late. I assume they originally wanted to announce this at the World Championships of Warhammer and left it too late, where currently players like myself are greatly benefiting from already having our Las Vegas Open 2025 scores boosting us up, because I'm on like a lot of ITC points at the moment despite not playing at any events. Some players are upset by it, but I kind of see why it had to be done. It does mean that the Las Vegas Open kind of loses some of its appeal, but maybe its dates will change, although it does make sense now that the season resets because at the World Championships of Warhammer, because Games Workshop now runs ITC. Events for 20 to 64 players, as well as 128 to 256 players, will see more boosts in terms of they give more points. Not as much as obviously the larger events, but the gap is now closer. We don't know how close it is because the metrics aren't super clear, but it means you're not fully left out by missing those large player events. You'll also get more points boosts for your events if you have linked your My Warhammer account as a TO to Best Coast pairings. And then if you're on the approved TO program, which is free to join, and on the Warhammer community article, which will be in the episode description below, Games Workshop has linked how you can apply for free. And then also if your event is a golden ticket event. So this will give you free cumulative point boosts on top of the already boosted points for your events. So if you're a TO, you probably want to sign up to all of these. And if you're a player trying to like improve your ITC ranking, I'm not saying you need to force your TO to do this, but you may want to speak to them just to double check, because I will have to do this as a TO just to, you know, incentivize more players coming to my events and, you know, sticking with them. And then another big change is now for each region, if you are ranked number 1, you will get a golden ticket to come to the World Championships of Warhammer for free. This is an unfunded ticket, but it does give you access to the tournament, and it will be given every 6 months. So halfway through the season, on the 1st of June, everyone who's ranked number 1 in their region will get a golden ticket. If that player already has a golden ticket, it will go down to next in line to the person who doesn't have a golden ticket, and then it will also overlap at the end of the season. So if you finish at the World Championships of Warhammer, like let's say the first in Spain, you will get a golden ticket for the next season, but on the 1st of June, if you're ranked number 1 in Spain at that time, you'll get a golden ticket for this year if you didn't already have one, which is a nice way because they've opened up tons of regions to get golden tickets now, which is really, really good. Although, as I said, you do have to pay for everything yourself, which doesn't make it as nice. Now, the downside of all of this is obviously you have to use Best Coast pairings to facilitate all these changes, because Best Coast pairings works with ITC very closely. So if you're not using Best Coast pairings, these changes kind of do nothing. And if you're not a competitive player, these changes do nothing whatsoever. So I appreciate that you've listened until now for some reason. But these changes are really interesting. I'm kind of worried in a way, only for big events, because I know a lot of TOs from big events, and it's just kind of, you know, I understand they want to, I really like how Games Workshop are trying to grow the standard 20 to 64 player size event, which is really, really good. Like, those kind of events are the most common, and it's nice to see them more growth, but it's just kind of worrying. Like, I'm not sure what's going to happen to LVO, considering its MO was that it was the start and end of ITC, so it'll be interesting to see how it plays out. And if the gap is kind of minuscule when it comes to those large events, which I don't think it will be, but that's just like a worst case scenario, then it kind of decentivizes going into these large events solely to play for tournament play. But if you're a player looking to rank yourself higher in the independent tournament circuit, ITC, this is a great time for you. And if you're a TO who's been trying to incentivize that, that's great as well, as now you have more free ways to make your event more enticing to players. So overall, I think it's good. There are some, you know, just like, that's not too great. And obviously, my big thing is also the fact that the golden tickets are unfunded. So it's still a lot of money to go to the World Championships of Warhammer. But overall, these are really good changes, and I'm happy to see them. Hopefully, I've broken it down well enough for you. But overall, I'm very happy with the changes. But that's pretty much it for me today. Please remember to like and subscribe as well as comment. Let me know what you thought of today's video. Did you find it useful and helpful? And what did you think of the changes to ITC, as well as if you're a player or a TO? And remember, I've got a Discord you can check out for free in the episode description below, an affiliate link at Emma Games, an affiliate link discount code at Crossfire Games, and a Patreon if you want to give me some more support. And I'm just going to quickly shout out my patrons. So for my adepts of the crew, I have Tom, Supercow, Sam, Nick, Mercenary Q, Mr. Meatwad, Lucas, Jeremiah, Graham, Fangzu, Draken, Dave Meets World, Dan, Dada Goldens, Chris, Amorphium, and then for my veterans of the crit, I have Samja and Mark. So thank you all so much for your support. It really means a lot to me and helps support the channel. So yeah, I'm interested to see how these changes pan out. It's nice, you know, definitely delayed, and yeah, it should be fine. It's nice that they're boosting events more, and it's just great to see. It'll be interesting to see how it affects the World Championships of Warhammer, but more golden tickets is a good thing. Although it does kind of make it a weird event, because, for example, like, the World Championships of Warhammer isn't a normal event, whereas LVO, literally, all you had to do is pay to enter, and it was just like, it is this huge event that you just play in. So, you know, maybe if the World Championships of Warhammer moves around in terms of countries, it would be cool, but that's more of a video about the World Championships of Warhammer. Overall, these BCP changes and ITC changes are nice, and we'll just see how it plays out. But as a TO and player, I'm happy about both. Actually, as a player, I'm really happy, because I was worried about what these like end of season rankings for your region were. The fact that it's just a golden ticket means I can relax and don't really have to worry about playing too seriously, because I'm just like, I still actually haven't played in an event. So I probably won't play in an event until probably April maybe, or May. So I'm doing more tournament organizing. But remember, no matter how many ITC points you have, you can still always win as long as you can roll a crit.